Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. Thank you for your patience this morning. My name is Neal Kelley. I'm the Registrar of Voters for Orange County. I'd like to welcome you here this morning on what is really a historic milestone for us and a very important event in the lead up to the election, which is just 29 days away. We're going to be sending all 1.7 million ballots to voters this morning here in Orange County. Before I give you a few more of my remarks, I want to first introduce California's Chief Election Official, Secretary of State Alex Padilla.
Morning, everybody. Monday morning. And in our business, Neal, it's E29, 29 days till the election, and most importantly, the deadline in California law for counties to send vote-by-mail ballots. As you all know, this year we've chosen to send a vote-by-mail ballot to every active registered voter in the state of California. So for Orange County, it's 1.7 million. Statewide, it's more than 21 million, with some counties having gotten a head start mailing out as of last week. So we're live, folks. The election is underway. But I'm proud to stand here with Neal Kelley this morning in Orange County, one of the largest counties in the state, both by population and by electorate, to remind voters of what to expect. So every active registered voter will be receiving their ballot in the mail any day now, if they haven't already. For added assurance, we're reminding people to sign up for Where's My Ballot? It's our statewide ballot tracking tool. Voters can go, I'm sure Neal will plug the county site, but at the state level, vote.ca.gov is the one-stop shop for all the election tools and resources for voters. It's where voters have been going to register to vote. It's where voters have been going to verify their registration status or update their voter registration information. And it's where we've been encouraging people to go to sign up for Where's My Ballot and receive alerts by email, by text message, by automated phone calls on the status of their ballot through the delivery process. And in fact, more than 1.4 million people have signed up for Where's My Ballot statewide. Look, we know that we are in unprecedented times, and we are preparing in partnership, state and local officials preparing in partnership for an unprecedented election. So how do people vote, exercise their right to vote, and protect their health and that of their loved ones? It begins with vote by mail. And again, that's what we are celebrating here today. The ballots going outbound in Orange County. As voters receive their ballot, they have options for how to return their ballot when they have filled it out. They can return their ballot by mail. And in California, we're so committed that return postage is prepaid, so you don't have to worry about stamps. If a voter prefers to, they can deliver their ballot to any secure ballot drop box in the county convenient to them in the week between now and election day. Or if a voter prefers, they can walk it into any in-person voting location during the several days of in-person voting, not just election day, but several days of in-person early voting as well. And for the real eager voters, they can come on down to the county elections office and vote in person starting today at the county elections office. Look, if we all go back to what we learned in high school government class, and that is our democracy works best when every eligible voter participates. That's what it's all about. And that's why California proudly leads the nation on making it as easy as possible for eligible citizens to register to vote, to stay registered to vote, and to cast their ballots. We know full well that our life has been upended with COVID-19. We can't even go to the grocery store the same way anymore. And so voting has been modified to reflect that. Yes, we'll have safe in-person opportunities to vote, but our first recommendation is for folks who can to vote by mail. And either way, whether you vote by mail or vote in person, vote early if possible. The more people we can encourage to vote early, whether it's by mail or in person, we hope reduces the lines a little bit, reduces the wait times a little bit on Tuesday, November 3rd, And last but not least, before turning it back over to Registrar Kelley, I want to point out the voter assistance line here for Orange County. That's a sign that was in action here a few minutes ago to my left. That's the local number for Orange County voters. We have a similar assistance number set up at the state level, 1-800-345-VOTE. That's 1-800-345-VOTE. That's the Secretary of State's voter assistance hotline. We have staff and volunteers at the ready to answer questions, assist voters, make sure that everybody can exercise their right to vote and do it safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Padilla. I want to just say thank you on behalf of Orange County, the Registrar voters here, for your leadership throughout the state on these important issues up and down the state. And I want to give you just a little bit of background on what our role is and what we're doing today, as well as in the coming weeks. Just a reminder, we mailed voter information guides to all Orange County voters on September the 24th. So those are in the hands of voters throughout the county. Today, we will complete the entire mailing of our vote-by-mail ballots. Those will go out through the U.S. Postal System today, 1.7 million, starting right after this press conference. As the Secretary talked about, we have 116 secure ballot drop boxes throughout the county. And I think what's important about that is there are many choices for voters in how to return their official ballot. There's not just one solution. So they can drop them in those secure drop boxes. They will open today, and they will remain open through November 3rd at 8 p.m. They have the option, as the Secretary pointed out, of depositing their ballot in the mail if they would like to, postage paid. And then they also have the option of returning it at one of our 170 roughly locations throughout the county that will be in-person voting starting on October the 30th and run through November 3rd. We're the only county in California to have a full end-to-end solution, and that means that we take raw paper stock and print ballots and turn it into mail packets and send them out. A lot of counties do a mixture of that, but we're the only one that does it end-to-end. And what's important about that is maintaining the physical custody of the ballot within our department. It's an unbroken chain of custody. We will start processing ballots as soon as we receive the first one. So new California law under COVID-19 allows us to start processing 30 to 29 days out from Election Day. So if somebody gets their ballot tomorrow and they return it the next day, we'll start processing that. We cannot tabulate them or tally them until 8 p.m. on election night. As for field support out in the field when we open on October the 30th, we will have about 300 individuals that will be radio dispatched and can respond to issues in the field on election day if there are any reports of incidents. I think one of the things, the messages that I want to send out there and make clear is that we're not going to tolerate intimidation. We're not going to tolerate rule breaking in the vote centers. And we want to make sure that the laws, the regulations, and the rules are followed. There are multiple ways to report issues for voters if they have concerns. And just to reiterate, our number is 714-567-7600. You can also report incidents to the Orange County Intelligence Assessment Center if there are any unusual activities or suspicions at 714-289-3949. And then just to repeat, the Secretary of State Voter Assistance Hotline, that's 800-345-8683. And I know DA Spitzer will talk about his involvement as well. We're also doing something that's unique and different for this election. That's a remote observation system. So for those individuals, members of the public, campaigns that want to watch the ballot processing live in real time, they'll be able to do that online starting this coming Wednesday, October the 7th. That is a system that you sign up for online at ocvote.com/observe, and you'll be able to actually see the screens that our operators are using to process these ballots. We also have physical observation. We're getting a lot of inquiries from members of the public that want to come in and watch the process, and we do have limited spots available because of COVID, but there is a reservation system online also at ocvote.com/observe. It's my responsibility to conduct the operations of the election and to make sure, as I said, it's a fair and free process. And I'm going to make sure that we do that throughout this process and through election night. We're working closely with the Department of Homeland Security on their See Something, Say Something campaign, as well as other partnerships with OCIAC, which I mentioned before, the District Attorney's Office, and DHS. So we have multiple goals of ensuring that this election is open and fair and free for all voters throughout Orange County. And the Secretary of State, I'm sure, would agree with me that registrars up and down the state have one goal in mind, and that's to ensure that every eligible ballot is counted, and it will be, and that every voter has the opportunity to vote. And we are going to have voters that will be registering all the way up until Election Day. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to introduce Orange County's District Attorney Todd Spitzer, and then we'll open it up for questions. Mr. Spitzer.
Good morning. It's very formal. The message this morning is don't wear a black mask. It's very hot. So I cannot thank you enough and recognize our Secretary of State, Alex Padilla. The Secretary and I served together in the state legislature. We overlapped from 2002 to 2008. And I can tell you from my personal experience, I have absolute confidence in the foundation he has put forward to ensure that this election is going to be open, fair, and free. You also heard from Neal Kelley, and the Secretary acknowledged him, but Neal Kelley is probably one of the most respected registrars in the nation. The men and women that are on the loading dock behind you, and you can get that later because I know I'm not asking you to turn around this time, but as a former county supervisor, there's some of the most dedicated employees that understand the mission of the registrar's office. And to my left, your right, are men and women of the Orange County District Attorney's Office. And I want to explain our role because it wouldn't be an understatement to say that this election is being perceived as different than any other election in recent history, whether that's true or not. This matters. This is a ballot. It's not a real ballot. It has Donald Duck on it. But it's a sample ballot. This is what people have fought for. This is what we have shed blood for. It's not an understatement to explain how sacrosanct this piece of paper is. And then here's your envelope. And when you return your ballot, it warns you in no uncertain terms that if you engage in voter fraud to return this legal document, you may face up to 4 years in state prison. The only reason the Orange County District Attorney's Office is here today and why we've been here for the last 20 years is to support the Secretary of State and the Registrar of Voters. Our goal should be and will be to be invisible. But what I want to assure the Secretary, Mr. Kelley, and the public is that while we are going to fight to protect an open and fair and transparent election, there are those people that need to know that if they are thinking about or planning to engage in potential mischief, we will be there to enforce the law. This election is so different than any other election. Why? COVID-19, drop-off boxes, every registered voter, 1.7 million, getting a ballot, voting centers, longer periods of time to return your ballot. So this election is different. But what I want everybody to understand is that these two gentlemen and all their staffs and the registrar of voters throughout the state, their job is to protect the vote. We will protect the vote, and we will not allow rhetoric to control this election. Rhetoric cannot control this election. The facts will control this election. People's individual behavior will control this election. So it's so important that if you do not understand how to vote, or if you think, for example, because you received a mail-in ballot that you must return it by mail, which is not accurate, you get help. You can go to the registrar's website, secretary's website, or call the number. But if you suspect voter fraud, I'm asking you to call our hotline in the district attorney's office. That's outlined here on the poster. and we will investigate it. We will be fair, we will be neutral. The Orange County District Attorney's Office, whether the Secretary and I have been involved in partisan politics or nonpartisan politics, he knows his job and I know my job. And our job is to protect the vote, let people vote in a fair, open, and free society, and not take sides. Our job is not to take sides. Thank you very much.
Thank you, D.A. Spitzer, and I appreciate your leadership and your support of our office very much. And we'd be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Question over here. With so many ballots going out and so many options, what should people do if they don't mail their ballots in and they have it at home? Do they just throw it in the recycling? Do they rip it up? What should they do to feel safe about it?
Thank you. So the best advice I could give in Orange County, because we are a vote center county and we have an electronic system that will determine whether a voter has cast their ballot or not, is that ballot becomes void the minute they check in at an in-person site. So the answer to your question is they don't have to do anything with that ballot. They can throw it out, they can destroy it, they can leave it at home. It instantly becomes void and cannot be cast. So that's the best advice I can give you. Anybody else?
For people who are concerned about fraud, what can you tell them to encourage them that this is going to be an election where their votes are protected?
So I think, we've said that pretty loud and clear, and we're going to have a very robust response plan in place. I think the majority of the kinds of calls we get on a typical election are minor rule breakers, people that might be electioneering too close to a site or might put up posters where they shouldn't. And we have a team out there that'll be dedicated and focused on that. But like D.A. Spitzer pointed out, if we have issues that we need support in the field for, we will call on his office to do that. So I think voters understand that our office has been focused on that in the past, and we will continue to be focused on that. Yes, sir.
Just to add to that, and appreciate Neal's partnership and all his work, but just to add a little bit more to the answer, let me start with some good news, right? Because the research is there, the studies have been done, voter fraud in America is exceedingly rare. Voter fraud in California is exceedingly rare. Vote by mail specifically, since we're going to count on it so much this November's election, is nothing new in California. It's been growing in popularity for years. More than 70% of the ballots cast in the primary were vote by mail ballots. It's not just convenient for voters and efficient for administrators, it has proven to be secure. So at the risk of going into too much detail, I'd rather give you too much information than not enough. And so let me remind everybody of the signature verification process. That's one of the important safeguards for vote by mail. So voters, if you're listening, when you vote and send back your ballot, make sure you sign the outside of the envelope where indicated, right? The first thing Neal's team does, and I want to thank all the election workers back there for their tremendous work up to today and for the next couple of months. The first thing they do is compare the signature on that envelope with the signature on file for that person's voter registration record to confirm the identity of the voter. If the voter does not sign the envelope because maybe they forgot or maybe the signatures don't match, then the county is required to contact the voter to cure that issue. And one of two things happens. The voter may need to update their signature or add their signature. If the voter says, hey, that wasn't me, well, then obviously we may have something to look into. But that's just one of the many measures in place to ensure the integrity of vote by mail. I'll make another comment just on the ballots themselves and the return envelopes. The ballots themselves aren't just 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper that you can get at Kinko's or FedEx office. I'm dating myself. Every county, every election selects specific paper types that are used to print ballots with watermarks and other distinguishing features to help guard against counterfeit ballots coming into the stream. Those would set off alarms right away. Vote by mail ballots must be returned in the official envelope. Each envelope has a barcode unique to the voter, also confirming the identity of the voter casting the ballot, and that's what enables our ballot tracking system. So, there's so much that goes into safeguarding our elections, and especially vote by mail, that yes, California voters can rest assured the safeguards are in place. But the other thing I wanted to mention, just as a follow-up to Dave Spitzer's comments, Glad that we work in partnership, state officials, local officials, to protect against voter fraud. We also are equally committed to ensuring the voter's Bill of Rights. Right? In California, any eligible voter has the right to be able to register to vote easily, be able to participate in the election, to be able to cast their ballot free of harassment or intimidation. Right? There's been chatter in recent weeks about poll watchers from different entities, maybe with different approaches to it. Yes, election observation is allowed in California, but voters have the right to be able to cast their ballots free of any harassment or intimidation, and working together, we will maintain the sanctity of those voting locations, free from electioneering, free from any intimidation that's happening. So this all goes into maintaining the integrity of the election, and against whether it's voter fraud or election fraud, we're proud of how we do it in California. Aquí. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. For some of the concerns that some people have about flipping votes on electronic machines and the computers, can you also address that?
Yes, and I very much appreciate the question. California law requires paper ballots. Paper ballots and what's known as a voter verifiable paper audit trail. So each county uses a different voting system. Sometimes machines are used to help a voter make their selections, but ultimately what's produced is a piece of paper. That paper ballot is what a voter can verify their selections on and cast. And so when we're counting the votes, we're counting paper. When we have to recount the votes, we're counting paper. And when counties conduct their post-election audits as required after every election, they're auditing paper. Neal, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and just specific to Orange County's voting system, it is a paper-based system. And so when a voter requests an in-person ballot, we print out a ballot on demand for them. When they mark that ballot in the vote center, they'll be able to review their selections before they personally deposit and scan the ballot. Not a poll worker, not a volunteer. So they are the ones depositing that and verifying that information. And I think we had another question.
Rather than election fraud, 32 years ago we were here in Santana because some party organized to have vigilance, private security outside the poll places, mainly to harass Latinos, people that probably was the first time that they were going to vote, and even there was a lawsuit against the Orange County.
I'm very familiar with the situation.
So rather than talking about voter fraud, what would you do to secure and to make sure that people doesn't confront some groups that probably are harass them outside the polls?
So I thank you so much for the question. So obviously there was that little bit of history. It was very significant and very troubling. And if I didn't cover that as in depth as I meant to, I apologize. I'll do it now. That will not be tolerated in Orange County. There will be absolutely no voter intimidation, period. Everybody has a right to vote. Neal Kelley's poll workers are trained that if there's any question about a vote, that person will vote provisionally and the issue can be taken up later. No one should be denied the right to vote at a polling location in any way whatsoever. We can sort those issues out later. There's no reason to get into any controversy on the day of the actual election. If they need to clarify, they can. I will not tolerate that. The vote is sacred, and it does not matter whether I or anybody else has any personal opinion about the direction of the country or about who should be in power or whatever. The three of us, and a lot more, are charged with protecting the individual's right, which is given to them as an American right. And I will enforce that. So my people are trained. We have trained all of our DA investigators, all of our lawyers. We are doing training for all police officer agencies in Orange County. And they will be instructed that if they get a call to a polling place and they're the first responder before, say, our staff can get there, their job is to keep the peace. It is not to make decisions about who should vote and who cannot. We will leave that up to Neal's staff. They are the experts. We will consult with them. The job is to keep the peace. I do not believe that we will see that in Orange County. I do not believe that. But we have had some civil protests in recent weeks. We have had, unfortunately, violence in recent weeks. And we will not allow this election to disintegrate or to be denigrated in any way whatsoever when it comes to enforcing an individual's right to vote.
Just one question.
Before going to the next question, quería agregar en español también, por favor.
Oh, just one second.
Desafortunadamente, bien sabemos de lo que ha ocurrido en el pasado, hace muchos años, pero cuando han habido esfuerzos partidarios tratando de no permitir votantes elegibles de participar en las elecciones. Ha cambiado la ley estatal y parte de la ley que vamos a enforzar juntos este año es el derecho que cada votante tiene en el estado de California de poder participar en el proceso electoral sin proteger los votantes y su derecho a votar en contra de los esfuerzos que esperamos no ver en California, de gente que quiere hacerlo más difícil o causar problemas en sitios de votación. Tratar de intimidar a los votantes o prevenir que un votante elegible participe en las elecciones es contra ley estatal y va a ser enforzada por partes de oficiales estatales y locales también. I also just want to add one more thing to the previous question about the integrity of the ballots and guarding against vote flipping. Also in state law in California is the prohibition for our voting systems to be connected to the internet. They're required by state law to be kept offline to make it impossible to systematically hack or rig the election.
Mr. Secretary, the President Trump has expressed no confidence in what you're talking about, even referring to it as a scam. What do you have to say to President Trump and the people of the United States about this?
Look, the people deserve the truth. And despite where the attacks against vote by mail or how California conducts elections come from, voters can trust the integrity of elections in the state of California. Multiple safeguards in place for however people choose to participate, whether it's by mail or in person. Every eligible voter in California has the right to register to vote easily without any unnecessary burdens or obstacles, and to cast their ballot free of any harassment or intimidation. I know in recent weeks there's been suggestions or threats to send law enforcement agencies to quote-unquote monitor polling locations. That is against state law. There's been more recent chatter about these poll watchers, again, without knowing exactly what their motivations are. So we wanted to make it abundantly clear today. Election observation is allowed in California. It's part of the transparency of the process. But intimidation of voters and harassment of voters is not. And that is very clear in state law as well.
But your reaction to President Trump and his comments?
Look, it's a shame. Every election, state and local elections officials work hard to make sure our elections are accessible, secure, and safe in the era of the COVID-19 pandemic. We should be working together to create more easy, safe options for voters to participate, not to make it harder. And these attacks on the integrity of election serve nothing other than to undermine confidence in the election, which voters deserve to have. And so if you have a more specific question, happy to answer the safeguards that are in place, but I think we're covering it pretty well here.
Because President Trump also claimed that there were some ballots found in rivers or streams and whatnot. Whether or not that's true or not, what if something like that were to happen in California? If ballots were found in rivers, in garbage cans, with certain candidates on it, what happens there?
Yeah, again, you have the phone numbers here, folks. I mentioned the state voter hotline, 1-800-345-VOTE. It's not just a voter assistance line. There's a formal way to submit complaints at the state level. We too have an investigative unit. I should mention, by the way, if somebody's going to call with, would you say, suspected fraudulent activity, we need information. We need specifics. It's not just anecdotal. It's not just I think or I feel. For us to look into something either at the local level or at the state level, we need specifics. If you see specifics, then please bring it forward. But what we hear coming from Trump is usually baseless and not helpful. Other questions? Has everybody here signed up for Where's My Ballot? Track your ballot. It works great. I got my email yesterday. My ballot's on the way. No, seriously, any other questions? Última pregunta, sí.
Español, por favor, si nos puede hacer un enunciamiento de lo que se está haciendo el día de hoy.
Sí, claro, perdón. Bueno, estamos aquí anunciando el día E29. 29 días quedan entre hoy y la elección de este noviembre. Hoy es la fecha límite para condados que envíen las boletas por correo, como hemos decidido este año, a cada votante inscrito en el estado de California. Cuando votantes reciban sus boletas, tienen varias opciones en cómo regresar su boleta, o por correo, y no tienen que preocuparse por estampillas, el costo postal viene prepagado. Pueden entregar su boleta a cualquier buzón para boletas en su condado entre hoy y la elección, o si el votante prefiere, puede entregar su boleta en persona en cualquier sitio de votación el día de la elección o antes en los centros donde hay votación temprano antes de este noviembre 3. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Neal, and Neal, let's do another round of applause for your staff.
Thank you, Secretary. I just want to sum up for you right now. Our job today is to deliver these ballot packets to the United States Postal Service. And just speaking very quickly on, I know some of you had a few questions related to the post office. We have a very close relationship with Orange County postal officials. I meet regularly with not only the postmaster, but the executive leadership team and their management team. And we've worked through many issues. And trust me, I'm not just taking them at their word. We're also looking at data on a daily basis. We work closely hand in hand with them to monitor the delivery and the return of these ballots, which is very important. So I have full faith and confidence in the postal system. But again, if voters choose to do so otherwise, they have other options to return their ballot. And with that, we're going to take just a few minutes to reposition, and we're going to back our first truck up and load if you want to get some footage of that. So we'll just ask the media if you could move to the dock. And again, thank you, Secretary of State Alex Padilla, for your leadership, and DA Spitzer as well for your leadership. Thank you.